Hey guys, it's Mr. Martin here, and going to do 3 problems for you today. Out of section 4.3, we're going to do problem number 15, 28, and 37. You have a lot more to do. If you have any questions, obviously let me know, but I figure if we do a couple problems, it might be able to help you out. So problem number 15 says y equals the arc cosecant of x squared plus 1, and then the directions tell us to find the derivative of y with respect to the appropriate variable. The variable that we're using is x, so they want us to find dy dx. So we have to remember that the derivative of the arc cosecant is, so I'll just write it up here real quick, d dx of arc cosecant of u equals -1 over the absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1 and then du dx. Okay, so that's just for our little reference right now. Eventually you need to have that 100% memorized. Right now it's still fresh in your brain, so great. We're going to go through and we're going to go, what is our u? Our u in this one is this inside function, which is x squared plus 1. Our du is the derivative of that, which is 2x. Okay, so we're just going to go through, and dy dx of this is going to be -1. Remember, anytime you take the derivative of a c, it's going to be negative, over the absolute value of x squared plus 1 times the square root of u squared. Our u is x squared plus 1, so x squared plus 1 squared minus 1 times the derivative of the u, which is 2x. So dy dx then gets us -1. We can drop these absolute values because x squared plus 1 is always positive. There's never a time when this is not positive, so you can just drop those absolute values. And we get x squared plus 1 times the square root. We're going to FOIL this thing out. Becomes x to the 4th plus 2x squared plus 1 minus 1, all times 2x. Now you look in here, the 1's are going to cancel out, and we got x to the 4th plus 2x squared. So in there, just doing a little bit of algebra, I know, dang you algebra, -1 x squared plus 1 times the square root of x squared times x squared plus 2, and this is still all times 2x. The derivative of x squared is going to be x, so we get dy dx equals -1 over x squared plus 1 times x times the square root of x squared plus 2, and then up here, this times 2x, I'm just going to put it up here, and so it becomes -2x. You guys didn't even get to see all that. Alright, so we pulled out the x right there. The x squared becomes that x. Now that x and that x will cancel out. So our final answer is -2 over x squared plus 1 times the square root of x squared plus 2. And that's your derivative of your arc cosecant of x squared plus 1. So now let's move on to number 28. 28 is leading us into the derivative of the inverse functions. So they give us a function. They say find f of 1, and they say find f prime of 1. So f of 1 is very easy. We just replace 1 in the x's, so 1 to the 5th plus 2 times 1 to the 3rd plus 1 minus 1. 1 to the 5th is 1, plus 2 plus 1 minus 1 gives us 3. Perfect. Okay, so we know that at this point f of 1 equals 3. And because we know what's happening in this book, we know that they're going to eventually ask us to find the inverse of that function. Alright, so the derivative at 1 is going to be 5x to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 1 minus 0. The derivative of 1 is 0. We plug in 1, we get 5 times 1 to the 4th plus 6 times 1 plus 1, squared. So this becomes 5 plus 6 is 11 plus 1 is 12. So f prime of 1 is 12. Alright, so now we go back. Now we go down to B. The inverses, in the rules with inverses, is that anytime we have an inverse, all we have to do is switch the x and the y. So if we have in our original function, we have f of 1 equals 3, then our inverse, f of 3, would be 1. Okay. And which then this leads us to our inverse function, derivative of the inverse function. The rule for the derivative of the inverse function is d dx of the inverse function is equal to 1 over, this is the inverse function at our x value. This is going to be the, let me say that right. Alright, so this is going to be the derivative of the y value of our inverse function. So right up here, we have the derivative of the inverse function at 3. That's just going to be 1 over the derivative of the f function, but not at the 3, but at the 1 value. So f prime at 1, which we already figured out up here. It comes out to be 1/12. Okay. Hopefully that was clear enough. I'm sorry I messed up a little bit there. All right, and then our last problem. This one's going to use a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot of algebra is what I think. So we got the derivative of our arc sine of x over 2. We have 5 different choices. So we're going to have to go through and figure those out. Our u equals x over 2. So then our du equals 1/2. That's the inside of the function. So then we got to go and we got to figure out what the derivative of our arc sine function is. The derivative of the arc sine function, is equal to 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay, so you've got those memorized. You're going to get them memorized. We can replace this x right here with a u. So it can be anything. So this would become a u. And then this would be du dx. So we got our u. We're good to go. So we just start plugging everything in. We got the derivative of this is going to be 1 over the square root of 1 minus our u, which is x over 2 squared, times the derivative of u, which is 1/2. So if we go and we algebra this up, we get 1 over 2 times the square root of 1 minus x squared over 4. So now we're going to look at the book and look at our multiple choice answers. This is problem number 37. So we have, let me zoom in a little bit on this. Our answer is 1 over 2 times the square root of 1 minus x squared over 4. And we look at these answers. We've got negative 2 over the square root of 4 minus x squared. We've got negative 1 over the square root of 4 minus x squared. We got 2 over 4 plus x squared. We got 2 over the square root of 4 minus x squared. And we got 1 over 4 minus the x squared. So if I was taking this test and I was looking at this, I would first look at these x's. Notice every one of these x's, our x is x squared divided by 4. But none of these answers have a divided by 4. So that would give me a clue that we want to get rid of this 4 right here. So we're going to take this and we're going to do a little bit of algebra. This is going to be 1 over 2 times the square root. So we're going to factor out a 1/4 out of this whole thing. Okay, so we'd say, okay, what's 1 divided by 1/4? So we got 1/4. 1 divided by 1/4 is 4. X squared over 4 divided by 1/4 is x squared. And this is all raised to the 1/2. Oh, no. Sorry. We've got our square root right there. We're good. All right. So now we look at that and we go, oh, we can take the square root of 1/4. That becomes 1 over 2. The square root of 1/4 is 1/2. And we get the square root of 4 minus x squared. 2 times 1/2 cancels out. We get 1 over the square root of 4 minus x squared. Which now we look at our answers. And there is our answer right there. E. So our answer for this one would be E. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Hope this works. Let me know if you've watched this and send me an email. Tell me if you would improve it in any way. All right.